Ethan stood at the massive glass window of the shuttle, staring down at the sprawling city below. Thyla Prime was nothing like Earth. Towering silver spires shimmered under a greenish sun, and strange flying vehicles glided silently between the buildings. The air shimmered with a faint hum of energy that made his skin tingle. "Beautiful, isn't it?" a voice said behind him. Ethan turned. It was Dr. Miriam Solace, the head of the human diplomatic delegation. She smiled, her eyes reflecting the sunlight from the alien sky. "Try not to trip over the carpet when you meet royalty. That would be memorable," she joked. Ethan chuckled nervously. "Yeah, I'm sure falling in front of the entire Thrylan Empire is exactly how I want to introduce myself." Miriam laughed. "Relax, just be human. You have one thing they don't: humor and honesty. Use it." Ethan took a deep breath. He wasn't a diplomat by training. He was a scientist, a problem solver who understood equations better than etiquette. But somehow he had been chosen to represent humanity because of his quick thinking and calm under pressure. Or maybe they were desperate to send someone unpredictable. The shuttle landed with a soft hiss. A red carpet rolled out, flanked by Thrylan guards, tall, lithe beings with smooth silver skin and eyes like liquid gold. They moved with perfect symmetry, every gesture precise, as if guided by invisible rules. Ethan felt immediately self-conscious. "Welcome, humans," said one of the guards, his voice like a low musical note. "Follow me." The delegation followed through massive crystal doors into the palace. The walls gleamed with light, changing colors like liquid metal. Every surface reflected them perfectly, making Ethan feel as though he were walking inside a jewel. Finally, they reached the throne room. It was enormous, with ceilings that seemed to touch the sky. On a raised platform sat the Thrylan royal family. The king's eyes glowed faintly as he regarded the humans, his expression unreadable. The queen's gaze was sharp, assessing, like she could see every thought in Ethan's mind. And then she appeared, Princess Lyra. She floated gracefully to the front of the platform, her silver robes shimmering with intricate patterns that seemed to move like living water. Her eyes locked on Ethan, and for a moment the bustling room seemed to vanish. Ethan's stomach flipped. There was something electric in her gaze, something that made him feel both small and important at the same time. "Welcome, humans," Lyra said in a voice soft but commanding. It carried over the room, yet it felt like it was directed only at him. The human delegation bowed awkwardly. Ethan stumbled slightly, his knees feeling weak. He cleared his throat, trying to appear composed. "Thank you, Princess Lyra. It's an honor to be here," he said, voice steadier than he felt. She tilted her head slightly, studying him with a curious expression. Then, in a move that shocked everyone, she lifted her hand and pointed directly at Ethan. "I want him," she said. The words echoed through the throne room. For a moment there was complete silence. Then murmurs rippled across the assembly. The king's brow furrowed. The queen's lips pressed into a thin line. Guards stiffened and some of the human diplomats gasped. Ethan froze, his mouth open. What?" he managed. Lyra's eyes sparkled. "I said I want him. Princess, you mean..." "For her," one of the alien ministers began, but Lyra held up a hand. "No explanations needed," she said firmly. "He is the one." Ethan's face flushed. He felt like he had been thrown into the middle of a storm he didn't understand. Was this some kind of test? Some strange cultural ritual he had accidentally walked into? Or did she really mean him? The king rose, his movement smooth and commanding. "Lyra," he said, his voice low and calm, yet carrying a weight that made everyone still. "This is highly irregular. Protocol exists for a reason." Lyra met her father's gaze without flinching. "And I have my reasons, father. You will see that he is extraordinary. He is human." The word human seemed to carry a strange resonance. The court looked at Ethan as if he were a curiosity, a rare specimen to study. He had been aware of the differences between humans and Thrylans before coming here, but the reality of it was overwhelming. Humans were unpredictable, emotional, innovative, and apparently fascinating. Miriam nudged him gently. "Just smile and nod," she whispered. Ethan nodded, trying to look calm while his brain raced. The king frowned but didn't speak further. The queen's gaze softened slightly and Lyra floated back gracefully to her throne. Ethan noticed a faint smile on her lips, barely visible but unmistakable. As the ceremony continued, Ethan was shown to a guest chamber, a room of glowing panels and soft, levitating furniture that adjusted to his body automatically. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the walls in awe. "This is insane," he muttered. Miriam leaned against the doorway. "Welcome to Thrila Prime. You are very famous now. The entire court is talking about you." Ethan rubbed his face. "I didn't even do anything yet." Miriam laughed. "Sometimes just existing as a human is enough." The rest of the day passed in a blur of formal dinners, introductions, and observing alien customs that seemed designed to confuse humans at every turn. Thrylan etiquette was precise to the point of absurdity. Every gesture, every tone of voice had a meaning, and failure to comply could result in offense. Ethan stumbled a few times, apologizing profusely, but somehow Lyra's approving glances kept him from completely humiliating himself. By evening, the human delegation was invited to the palace gardens. The gardens were enormous, filled with glowing flora that pulsed like living jewels. Streams of water flowed in impossible arcs, defying gravity, and strange birds with translucent wings sang in harmony. Lyra appeared beside him. "Do you like it?" she asked. Ethan nodded, speechless. "It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it," she smiled. "It is beautiful, isn't it? But beauty can be dangerous if you forget how to navigate it." Ethan looked at her, puzzled. "Navigate it?" Lyra's eyes sparkled. "Your people, humans. You see things differently. You find patterns where others see rules. That is why I am interested in you." Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine. He had faced dangerous experiments, risky field missions, and complex negotiations, but nothing had prepared him for this. A princess in an alien court had singled him out, and she wasn't just curious, she was fascinated. "I don't know what to say," Ethan admitted honestly. "Say nothing," Lyra replied. "Just be yourself. That is enough." For the first time that day, Ethan felt a strange sense of hope. Maybe humans really did have something special that no amount of alien protocol could suppress. Maybe he could survive this and even thrive. But as he returned to his chamber that night, the words of the princess echoed in his mind. "I want him." Ethan woke to a soft green light streaming through the window of his chamber. The strange hum of Thrila Prime was quieter in the early morning, yet it still vibrated through his bones. He stretched and looked around. Everything in the room still seemed alive, almost breathing. The furniture shifted slightly as if acknowledging his movement, and the air shimmered with energy that defied logic. "Breakfast is ready," a voice said from behind. Ethan turned to see a Thrylan attendant floating silently at the doorway. The being's silver skin caught the morning light, and its golden eyes regarded him with polite curiosity. He nodded. "Thank you," he said. As he followed the attendant through the palace corridors, Ethan's mind replayed the events of the previous day. Princess Lyra pointing at him, declaring, "I want him." The image of the court gasping, the king frowning, and the queen observing silently. It all seemed unreal. He wasn't sure whether he was terrified, flattered, or completely out of his depth. Probably all three. Breakfast was a quiet affair. The human delegation sat at a long table with trays of alien food that glowed faintly. Ethan poked at the strange dishes with caution. "Eat slowly," Miriam whispered. "They notice everything." Ethan swallowed a bite of a translucent jelly-like substance. "Tastes interesting," he said, choosing a neutral tone. He wasn't lying. It was unlike anything he had ever eaten. But it wasn't exactly pleasant either. "Interesting is a good start," Miriam said, smiling. Just as Ethan was beginning to relax, the doors to the dining hall opened. Princess Lyra glided in, her silver robe shimmering in the soft morning light. She scanned the room, and when her gaze landed on Ethan, a small smile appeared. "Good morning." "Ethan," she said softly. "Good morning, Princess," he replied, bowing awkwardly. Lyra floated toward him, stopping just a few feet away. "Did you sleep well?" she asked. Ethan nodded. "As well as one can sleep in an alien palace with sentient furniture and walls that hum." Lyra laughed, a soft musical sound that made him forget the strangeness of the environment for a moment. "You find humor in things most would ignore." "That is very human," Ethan blinked. "I guess that's one of our special traits?" Lyra's eyes sparkled. "Indeed. Humans see patterns, make connections, and find meaning in chaos. That is why I am fascinated by you." Ethan felt a mix of pride and nerves. He had always thought of humans as ordinary, but to an alien princess, his very existence seemed extraordinary. After breakfast, the human delegation was given a tour of the palace. Ethan followed along, trying to absorb everything: the flowing gardens, the shifting corridors, the floating platforms. But he was distracted by Lyra, who walked beside him, pointing out subtle details of the architecture and technology. "Notice the flow of energy here," she said, gesturing to a wall that pulsed with soft light. "It is designed to react to emotion. Calm thoughts make it steady. Agitation makes it ripple. Most Thrylans suppress their emotions to maintain control." Ethan nodded. "That's impressive. And complicated." Lyra tilted her head. "You humans thrive in complication. That is why I want to understand you." The tour continued, and Ethan saw the stark differences between humans and Thrylans. The aliens moved with perfect precision, every gesture deliberate, every word measured. Humans, by contrast, were messy, unpredictable, emotional, but also creative and adaptable. Lyra seemed to admire that unpredictability. By afternoon, Ethan found himself in the palace gardens alone with Lyra. The other humans were being shown to their chambers, and the staff had left them in the glowing labyrinth of plants and streams. "Why did you point at me yesterday?" Ethan asked, unable to contain his curiosity. Lyra stopped by a pool of water that floated in the air. The surface reflected their faces, though the images shimmered and changed with every movement. "I have been studying humans for many cycles," she said. "Most alien species are predictable. They follow rules, traditions, patterns. Humans? You are different. You act with curiosity, courage, and creativity. You see solutions where others see problems. And sometimes, you surprise even yourself." Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. "So, it's just because I'm a human?" Lyra smiled. "Not just because you are human, because you are you. You think differently, and that is rare. That is why I want you. Not in the way you might imagine. I do not ask for obedience or submission. I ask for partnership, for connection, for understanding. I see potential in you." Ethan swallowed. He had faced dangerous missions on Earth, but nothing had prepared him for this. The weight of being chosen by an alien princess, the fascination in her golden eyes, and the implication that humans might really be special in ways no one else realized. "Lyra, I don't even know what to say," he admitted. "Then say nothing," she replied. "Just observe. Just be human. That is enough." For hours, they wandered the gardens. Lyra showed him alien flora that responded to touch, streams that bent and floated, and birds with translucent wings that sang in harmonies no human could reproduce. Ethan marveled at everything, and Lyra's quiet encouragement made him feel comfortable, even extraordinary. As the sun began to set, the gardens glowed with soft golden light. Ethan realized he had been walking beside her for hours, and despite the palace, the court, and the strange rituals, he felt at ease. "Do you ever feel trapped by the rules of your court?" he asked cautiously. Lyra considered this. "Sometimes. Thrylan society values control above all else. Rules protect us, but they also limit us. Humans, you are free in ways we cannot be. That freedom fascinates me," Ethan nodded. "Freedom has a cost, though. We make mistakes, we fail. We hurt each other sometimes." "Yes," Lyra said softly. "But we also create, we inspire, we surprise. That is what I see in you. That is what I see in humans." The sound of approaching footsteps interrupted them. Ethan turned to see one of the Thrylan ministers walking toward them, a stern expression on his face. Lyra's body tensed, and she stepped slightly in front of Ethan. "You are enjoying your human companion too much," the minister said in a clipped tone. "This is highly irregular. Humans are unpredictable. You endanger the decorum of the court?" Lyra's eyes flashed. "He is not a threat. He is remarkable. You will see in time that humans are capable of things your rigid rules cannot imagine." The minister glared but said nothing further. He turned and left, muttering to himself. Lyra exhaled, her shoulders relaxing. "You are brave," Ethan said quietly. "And you are curious," she replied, her eyes softening. "That is why we understand each other. That is why I chose you." Ethan smiled despite the confusion swirling in his mind. He did not understand all of the Thrylan rules, nor did he know how this journey would unfold. But for the first time he felt that humans, his people, truly had a place among the stars. As night fell, the gardens glowed softly under the alien sky. Ethan and Lyra stood silently, watching the stars twinkle above Thyla Prime. Despite the danger, despite the scrutiny of the court, he felt a sense of wonder he had never experienced on Earth. Lyra broke the silence. Tomorrow the council will begin their evaluations, she said. They will test you. They will try to see if you are worthy. Do not be afraid, just be yourself, Ethan nodded. I will try. You will do more than try, Lyra said. You will show them the power of being human. For the first time, Ethan realized that this journey was bigger than him. It was about humans being seen, not as inferior or chaotic, but as capable, intelligent, and unique. And with Princess Lyra's guidance, he might just prove it. As he returned to his chamber that night, Ethan felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. The days ahead would be filled with tests, challenges, and scrutiny, but he also felt a strange confidence. He had Lyra's trust, and maybe, just maybe, that was enough to survive, and even thrive in a world unlike any he had ever known. He lay down on the soft, shifting bed, listening to the hum of the palace around him, and for the first time in his life, he felt that being human, messy, unpredictable, emotional, might just be the greatest strength of all. The next morning, Ethan awoke with a mixture of excitement and nerves. Today was the day of the council evaluations, a series of tests designed to determine whether he was worthy of being recognized by the Threeland court. Humans had never been evaluated like this before. The thought of being scrutinized by beings whose precision and intellect surpassed anything on Earth made his stomach twist with tension. Breakfast was quiet. Miriam offered him a reassuring smile. Remember, Ethan, they respect creativity, courage, and intelligence, things humans have in abundance. Trust yourself. Ethan nodded, but he still felt the weight of the princess's gaze on him. Lyra arrived quietly, standing beside him for a moment before the human delegation was escorted to the council chamber. The chamber was vast, its walls shimmering with energy that reflected every movement. Floating platforms rose and fell in synchronized patterns, and Thrylan nobles took their seats in a semicircle, their golden eyes fixed on him. The king and queen were seated at the center, and Lyra floated close to the king, her gaze occasionally flicking to Ethan. A cold, precise voice echoed in the chamber. Ethan, human representative, you are here to demonstrate your worth. You will face 3 evaluations: intellect, courage, and adaptability. Fail anyone, and your claim to recognition will be denied. Begin. Ethan swallowed and stepped forward. The first evaluation was a battle of intellect. A complex device was placed in front of him, a series of interlocking cubes that glowed with alien energy. The task was simple in description: solve the puzzle before the time ran out. But Ethan quickly realized that every move the device made was designed to mislead, to trap him in an endless loop of failure. He took a deep breath, studied the patterns, and noticed a rhythm in the glowing cubes. Most Thrylans would have relied on brute logic or memorized patterns, but Ethan allowed his intuition to guide him. He thought like a human, making leaps that were illogical to the Thrylans but fit together in surprising ways. Minutes later, the device clicked and unlocked. A soft hum of approval spread through the chamber. Some of the council members raised their golden eyes in surprise, while others whispered to each other. The king's expression remained neutral, but Ethan caught Lyra's subtle smile. You are unconventional, the queen said, her voice calm but approving. Yet effective. Continue. The second evaluation was courage. Ethan was led to a chamber that simulated a dangerous environment, a collapsing bridge over a deep, glowing chasm. Illusions of fire and sharp objects filled the room. The task was to retrieve a crystal at the other side. Ethan's heart pounded. Every instinct screamed to retreat. But he remembered Lyra's words, "Be human. That is enough." He moved forward, calculating each step carefully but also trusting his reflexes. When the bridge started to wobble, he didn't panic. Instead, he adjusted his weight, used the vibrations to his advantage, and kept moving. At one point, a gust of simulated wind almost knocked him off balance, but he leaped and grabbed the edge of the bridge, using momentum to swing across. The council murmured. Humans rarely demonstrated courage with such presence of mind. They often acted recklessly or hesitated too long. Ethan, however, combined bravery with calculation. He reached the crystal, retrieved it, and returned safely. Lyra's eyes gleamed. You see the danger, yet you do not freeze. You act. That is human strength. The final evaluation was adaptability, the most challenging of all. Ethan was placed in a room filled with shifting obstacles, walls that moved without warning, doors that led nowhere, and strange creatures that observed him silently. The task was simple in theory: reach the exit. But the room constantly changed, and no path remained the same for more than a few seconds. Ethan felt a surge of panic. Every time he took a step, the walls moved. Every time he thought he understood the pattern, it changed. But instead of giving up, he relied on improvisation, another distinctly human trait. He began to observe the creatures, noticing that their movements predicted changes in the environment. He used his intuition, combined with rapid problem-solving, to navigate the shifting maze. Minutes passed, though they felt like hours. Finally, he reached the exit just as the chamber settled into silence. The council members leaned forward, clearly impressed. The king's expression softened, and the queen nodded slightly. "You have passed the tests," the king said. "By Thrylan standards, your methods are unusual yet effective. You have proven your worth." A soft cheer erupted from the human delegation, but Ethan hardly noticed. He was focused on Lyra, who hovered near the king, her golden eyes shining with pride. "You have done well," she said quietly when the session ended. "Not because you followed the rules, but because you are human. Your creativity, courage, and adaptability are rare. You have shown us what humans are capable of." Ethan smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment he had never known. But he also understood that the tests were only the beginning. The Thrylan court was conservative, and there were those who would never accept a human as equal. Over the next few days, Ethan was escorted through more of the palace, meeting scholars, engineers, and other members of the court. Each interaction revealed more about Thrylan culture and their rigid adherence to rules and traditions. But it also revealed their fascination with humanity. In one session, a Thrylan engineer presented a complex machine, designed to demonstrate a technological principle the humans had not encountered before. The device was intricate, with moving parts that responded to thought and emotion. Most aliens would analyze it slowly, following every protocol. But Ethan approached it differently. He experimented, combining observation with intuition, and discovered a solution that no Thrylan had considered. The council watched in silence, some in awe, some in disbelief. Ethan's approach was messy to them, unpredictable, yet it worked perfectly. Lyra's hand brushed against his arm, and he felt a surge of gratitude and connection. "You see?" she whispered. "Humans think differently. That difference is power." Ethan nodded. He realized that his success was not just about intelligence or courage. It was about being human, embracing uncertainty, trusting intuition, and adapting quickly. These were qualities Thrylans had largely suppressed in themselves, and they were fascinated by it. However, not everyone in the court was pleased. A few council members whispered in private, their golden eyes narrowing. They viewed humans as dangerous, unpredictable, a threat to their orderly society. Ethan sensed their hostility, but he also knew that Lyra would protect him. That evening, as the palace glowed under Thryla Prime's greenish moon, Ethan and Lyra walked through the floating gardens again. The air shimmered with soft light, and the glowing plants reflected in the pools of water that floated mid-air. "You did exceptionally today," Lyra said softly. "You have passed the council's tests and proven the value of humans. But remember, not everyone will accept it easily. Some will resist what they do not understand." Ethan looked at her, feeling both nervous and excited. "I can handle it," he said. "I've never been one to follow the rules exactly. I think humans have a lot to offer, even if it makes some people uncomfortable." Lyra smiled, her eyes glowing softly. "That is why I chose you. You are not just brave or clever, you are human, and that makes you extraordinary." They walked in silence for a while, observing the glowing flora and the gentle movement of the air. Ethan realized that despite the challenges, he had found a place where humans could shine, not by conforming, but by being themselves. The palace bells chimed, signaling the end of the day. Ethan felt a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. He had faced impossible tests, outwitted alien expectations, and earned a degree of respect from a species that valued perfection above all else. And through it all, Lyra had been by his side, offering guidance, encouragement, and trust. As he returned to his chamber that night, Ethan reflected on everything he had experienced. The Thrylan Council had tested him, but it was his humanity, curiosity, courage, adaptability that had carried him through. He realized that being human was not a disadvantage in an alien world. It was a strength, a way to see solutions others could not. He lay on the soft, shifting bed, listening to the hum of the palace, and for the first time, he felt that he truly belonged, not just as a guest, but as someone who could make a difference. Tomorrow, he knew, would bring new challenges. The court would continue to observe him, and some would continue to oppose his presence. But Ethan also knew something important. As long as he remained human, he had a unique power that no alien rule or tradition could take away. The morning sun cast a greenish glow over Thrila Prime as Ethan walked through the palace corridors. Despite the elegance and calm of the halls, he felt a strange tension lingering in the air. After passing the council's tests, he should have felt safe or at least respected, but something told him that not all of the Thrylan nobles were pleased with a human gaining favor. Princess Lyra floated beside him, her robes shimmering in the morning light. "You must be careful," she said softly. "Not everyone in the court is happy with your success. Some view humans as dangerous, unpredictable. They will try to find a way to challenge you." Ethan nodded, feeling a mixture of nerves and determination. "I can handle challenges. Humans have a talent for thinking outside the rules." Lyra smiled, but her eyes carried worry. "This is not just about tests. Some will try to manipulate events behind the scenes. Watch carefully. Observe more than you speak." Their first meeting of the day was with the chief minister, a stern Thrylan with sharp golden eyes. He bowed formally to Ethan and spoke in a calm but warning tone. "The council expects you to maintain decorum. Your rise in favor has caused unease. Some fear that your presence will disrupt centuries of tradition." Ethan nodded politely. "I understand." "I only wish to help and learn." The minister's eyes narrowed. "Helping is acceptable. Surpassing the expectations of the council, that is another matter." After the meeting, Ethan returned to his chambers feeling the weight of unseen scrutiny. He knew he could not confront these nobles directly. They were too powerful, too embedded in the rigid structure of their society. But humans had advantages they did not anticipate: intuition, adaptability, and the ability to think creatively under pressure. That evening, Lyra came to him in private. "There is a plot," she said quietly, her voice low so no one could hear. "Some council members plan to discredit you. They see you as a threat to their power and their rules. They will try to use you as a pawn to humiliate me and maintain control." Ethan's heart raced. "A plot? What can we do?" Lyra smiled faintly. "We will turn it against them. Humans excel at finding solutions when the rules do not help. Your way of thinking? It is exactly what we need." The next day, the palace erupted in controlled chaos. A false alarm was raised, an emergency that required immediate action. The council had designed it to expose Ethan's lack of knowledge and create doubt in the eyes of the Thrylan public. Ethan was guided to the command center, a vast room filled with glowing panels and floating holographic displays. The emergency was clear. A breach in the palace's energy systems threatened to disable key security and support functions. The instructions from the council were intentionally confusing, written in an archaic Thrylan protocol that no human had seen before. The other nobles watched with narrowed eyes, expecting Ethan to fail. He took a deep breath and reminded himself: observe, think, adapt. Be human. Instead of following the convoluted protocol, Ethan analyzed the energy flow visually. He noticed patterns that the Thrylans had ignored, subtle anomalies in the system's response to stress. He realized that the breach was not a mechanical fault but a manipulation of the energy field by the nobles themselves, a trap disguised as a crisis. Ethan spoke clearly. "The problem is not mechanical. It's a deliberate redirection of energy. If we restore the flow in this sequence, the system will stabilize without triggering further alarms." The Thrylan engineers hesitated, unused to being instructed by a human. But Ethan demonstrated the solution, combining intuition, observation, and unconventional reasoning. Slowly, the energy grids began to stabilize and the emergency alarm ceased. The council members' faces fell. Their plan had failed. The princess's eyes glowed with pride. "See?" she whispered to Ethan. "You think differently. That is why humans survive and succeed where others fail." But the threat was not over. Ethan realized that some council members would now escalate their efforts. They would not accept a human interfering with Thrylan tradition. Over the next several days, subtle acts of sabotage began. Equipment left malfunctioning, False reports circulated, and whispers of doubt were spread among palace staff. Ethan noticed patterns in the disturbances. Each was minor individually, but together they suggested a coordinated attempt to undermine him. He began to counteract these efforts with careful observation and quick action. Using human ingenuity, he anticipated problems before they happened. He corrected errors before they escalated and used small, clever interventions to expose the hidden attempts at sabotage. One evening, Ethan discovered a hidden message embedded in the palace's communication network, coded in a way that Thrylands assumed no human could understand. His knowledge of logic and pattern recognition allowed him to decode it, revealing the names of those involved in the plot. Lyra was both impressed and relieved. "You have uncovered the conspirators. Now we can deal with them without confrontation." Ethan thought for a moment. Confrontation would be dangerous. A direct accusation could backfire, giving the conspirators justification to escalate. Instead, he devised a clever plan to use the council's own methods against them. He approached the king with a proposal, a simulation of the palace's energy system and security protocols. The simulation would demonstrate potential vulnerabilities and solutions. He framed it as a training exercise, not a means of exposing sabotage. The king agreed, intrigued. During the simulation, Ethan subtly recreated scenarios that mirrored the conspirators' sabotage attempts. As the events unfolded, the council members' actions were exposed, how they had manipulated reports, disabled systems, and attempted to frame Ethan. The result was undeniable. The conspirators could not deny their actions, and the king, though calm and measured, made it clear that such behavior would no longer be tolerated. The council murmured in shock. Some of the conspirators were removed from positions of influence, while others were warned publicly. The palace's hierarchy had been shaken, and humans, Ethan in particular, had demonstrated the power of thinking differently. Lyra floated to his side afterward. "You have done it," she said softly. "You have turned their plans against them, using your mind and insight. You have shown that humans are not weak. They are powerful in ways we have not fully understood." Ethan felt a swell of pride. For the first time, he realized that being human, creative, unpredictable, emotional, adaptable, was not just a personal trait. It was a strength that could change the course of history, even in an alien empire. But he also knew that the court would remain wary. The events had proven his worth, but some nobles would always resent the disruption humans caused. The challenge was not over. It was only evolving. Over the following weeks, Ethan continued to work closely with Lyra. Together, they implemented new strategies to strengthen the palace's systems, improve communication, and foster cooperation among the staff. Each success further proved the value of human ingenuity. The princess's admiration for him grew, and their bond deepened. She trusted him not just as a guest or an outsider, but as a partner, someone capable of seeing solutions beyond rigid rules. One evening, they stood in the palace gardens, the floating pools of water reflecting the light of the moons above. Ethan gazed at the glowing flora, feeling both exhaustion and exhilaration. "You have changed the palace," Lyra said, her eyes shining. "Not by force, not by following rules, but by being yourself. That is what makes humans extraordinary." Ethan smiled. "I never thought being human could mean so much. I always thought we were ordinary, limited, but here, I see that our creativity, courage, and adaptability can make a real difference." Lyra took his hand, a small but deliberate gesture, and Ethan felt a warmth he had never experienced. "And together we can do more. We can change the empire, one step at a time." As they walked through the glowing gardens, Ethan realized that the hidden threats of the palace had tested him in ways he could never have imagined. They had forced him to rely on every human strength: observation, intuition, courage, and adaptability. And he had survived, not just as a human, but as someone who could make a difference in a world that seemed impossibly alien. For the first time, he felt a sense of belonging, not just as a guest in Thrila Prime, but as a participant in shaping its future. And with Lyra at his side, guiding and trusting him, he was ready for whatever challenges awaited next. The hidden threat had been revealed and neutralized, but Ethan knew that more trials were ahead. The court would continue to test him. The galaxy was vast and unpredictable, and the future was uncertain. Yet for the first time, he felt confident. Because he was human, and being human had allowed him to overcome what others thought impossible. The morning sun rose over Thrila Prime, casting its greenish-golden light across the palace. The events of the past weeks had transformed the atmosphere of the court. No longer was Ethan merely an outsider or a curiosity. He was recognized as a unique presence, a human whose ingenuity, courage, and adaptability had proven invaluable. Yet despite this growing respect, tension still lingered. Some members of the council remained skeptical, wary of a human who challenged centuries of tradition. Ethan stood in his chamber, gazing out at the alien city below. He had learned much since his arrival: the intricate politics of the Thrylan court, the strengths and weaknesses of their technology, and the subtle ways in which human creativity could solve problems that their rigid protocols could not. But more importantly, he had learned that humans were capable of more than he had ever imagined. A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "Ethan." He turned to see Lyra floating at the doorway, her eyes shining with warmth. "It is time," she said. "The council wishes to meet with you. Today they will acknowledge your contributions formally." Ethan nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and nerves. The council chamber had never felt more intimidating, even after all he had accomplished. But with Lyra by his side, he felt ready. When they arrived, the chamber was filled with the full council, their golden eyes fixed upon him. The king sat at the center, his expression calm but commanding. Lyra hovered near him, her presence both protective and supportive. The king spoke, his voice resonant. "Ethan, human representative, you have faced tests, challenges, and scrutiny unlike any other being in our empire. You have demonstrated intellect, courage, and adaptability, qualities we have long valued but seldom witnessed in outsiders. Today, we formally recognize your contributions and the value of your people." A murmur spread through the council. Some nodded in approval. Others still whispered doubts, but all eyes were on Ethan. Ethan stepped forward, bowing respectfully. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I am honored to serve and to demonstrate the capabilities of humanity. We may be different, but our uniqueness is our strength. I hope to continue building understanding between our species." The king's gaze softened. "You have shown that differences are not weaknesses. They are opportunities. Opportunities to learn, to grow, and to advance. Your actions have proven that humanity possesses qualities that can benefit the Thrylan Empire and beyond." Lyra's smile was radiant. She floated closer to Ethan and whispered, "See? I told you. Humans are extraordinary, and now the court sees it too." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. He had faced trials that would have broken many others, yet he had persevered. His human traits, curiosity, creativity, courage, and adaptability, had not only helped him survive but had earned him a place of respect in an alien empire. The council then addressed the remaining skeptics. "Let this recognition serve as a reminder," the king continued. "Rigid adherence to tradition without openness to new ideas can be limiting. Ethan has demonstrated that collaboration, trust, and understanding across species can lead to solutions that none of us could achieve alone." A few of the skeptical nobles bowed their heads, acknowledging the wisdom in his words. The room, once filled with tension, now buzzed with cautious optimism. After the formal recognition, Ethan was led to a quiet chamber with Lyra. "You did it," she said softly. "You not only survived the tests and the challenges, but also changed perceptions. The court cannot ignore the value of humans any longer." Ethan shook his head, still processing everything. "I couldn't have done it without you. Your guidance, your trust, it made all the difference." Lyra took his hand, a gesture rare in Thrylan culture, especially in public, and smiled. "And you have changed me too. You've shown me that strength comes in many forms, and sometimes the most powerful force is being true to oneself." Ethan felt a surge of emotion. He had come to Thrila Prime as a visitor, unsure of his place, yet now he stood as a bridge between humans and Thrylans, a symbol of possibility. In the following days, the palace buzzed with renewed energy. Ethan worked closely with Thrylan engineers, scholars, and officials, collaborating on projects that combined human ingenuity with alien technology. Together with Lyra, he proposed innovations in energy management, security systems, and diplomatic communication, ideas that the council had never considered before. The Thrylan court began to change. Rigid hierarchies softened slightly. Curiosity and creativity were encouraged, and humans were no longer seen as outsiders, but as valuable partners. Other human representatives arrived, and Ethan became a mentor, helping them navigate the complexities of Thrylan society, while teaching the aliens to appreciate human problem-solving and adaptability. One evening, as Ethan and Lyra walked through the palace gardens, the floating pools reflecting the moons above, she spoke softly. "You have done more than survive, Ethan. You have created a new path, a future where humans and Thrylans can work together, learn from each other, and achieve what neither could alone." Ethan smiled, feeling the weight of the moment. "I never imagined coming here would lead to this. I thought we were small, ordinary, maybe even fragile compared to your species. But we have something unique, something that makes us strong." Lyra nodded. "Yes, humans are extraordinary, and now the galaxy can see it too. Together we can face challenges no single species could overcome." Their partnership became a symbol of hope, not only between humans and Thrylans, but for the broader galaxy. Word of their collaboration spread to neighboring systems, encouraging dialogue, cooperation, and mutual respect among diverse species. Humans were no longer merely a curious novelty. They were recognized as intelligent, creative, and courageous beings capable of shaping the future. The palace, once a place of strict hierarchy and tradition, became a hub of innovation. Humans and Thrylans worked side by side, learning from each other. Ethan's human perspective brought fresh ideas, while Thrylan experience offered guidance and precision. Together they solved problems that had long stumped the Empire. As weeks turned into months, Ethan and Lyra continued to grow closer, both personally and professionally. Their bond was built on mutual respect, trust, and admiration. Lyra often confided in him, sharing insights into Thrylan culture and society, while Ethan introduced her to human ways of thinking, creative, bold, and sometimes unconventional. One day, during a ceremony honoring diplomatic achievements, Lyra stood beside Ethan in front of the assembled council. "Today," she announced, "we recognize not only the contributions of humanity but the power of partnership. Differences are not obstacles, they are strengths. And by embracing them, we can create a future brighter than any tradition could promise." The council members applauded, some enthusiastically, others cautiously, but all were compelled to acknowledge the truth in her words. Ethan felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The journey had been long and filled with challenges, yet he had emerged not only respected but also as a bridge between worlds. Later, in the quiet of the palace gardens, Ethan and Lyra stood together, looking out at the glowing flora and the floating pools. "Do you ever think about what comes next?" Ethan asked. Lyra smiled. "Every day. But now we face it together. Humans and Thrylans side by side. We will explore, innovate, and protect what we have built. The galaxy is vast and there is much to do." Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of purpose he had never known on Earth. "Then let's do it. Together." And so, under the twin moons of Thryla Prime, a human and an alien princess began a new chapter, one of cooperation, respect, and shared vision. Humanity had proven its worth not through force or conquest, but through creativity, courage, and adaptability. And in doing so, Ethan had helped create a future where humans were seen not as outsiders, but as vital participants in the galaxy's unfolding story. As night fell over the palace, the floating gardens glowed softly, the air shimmering with energy and possibility. Ethan felt a deep sense of peace. He had faced trials, uncovered plots, overcome challenges, and forged bonds that would endure for generations. Lyra took his hand once more. "You are extraordinary, Ethan. Not because you are human alone, but because you are you. And together we will shape the future." Ethan smiled, the stars reflecting in his eyes. "Then let's make it extraordinary.